Hey everyone, welcome back to Revolutionary Being. This is Kaya here again, and it's been a bit of a heavy week. It's like 20 below out where we are, and as you know, this is why I'm all bundled up in my blankets and my scarf and everything. Before I get into the video, I just wanted to speak to the whole phenomenon, staring into the abyss, and just how important it is for us to know what's going on in the world, or like what the powers that want to be are intending to manifest. It's important for us to know, and I often feel like I go through phases where I stare really deeply into that, and I can basically see the manifestations of almost like a hell on earth. And through technology, and I've been writing about this, but something about, so there's sort of a psychic download that happens. You can get visions about, connect dots and everything about what's really going on and sort of what that looks like in the future. And of course, there's like really, really beautiful things you can look at too in that way. But there's also really dark things, especially now on the planet. You can get into really looking into like the really deep shadow of humanity, and the sort of agendas that are blossoming out of that shadow. And I've talked before about how, I haven't called it this in my videos, but we're really in a dark night collectively. We're in an awakening. We're in like sort of the death of the old world and the seeds of the birth of the new world. But in that in-between state, there's this intense amount of collective shadow that's being pushed out. And this is people's fears. We're all here. We're all sort of plugged into that. We would have to be a match for it, otherwise we wouldn't be here. But my point is that sometimes I get these sort of clairvoyant downloads, and they can be really, really heavy. It's also kind of beautiful, almost in like just in that kind of exquisite, like, wow, that manifests, even though it's like the ugliest thing you've ever seen. It's like the connecting those dots and sort of listening to some of the prophets and prophecies and teachers that came before us and how they predicted this time. There's something beautiful about that. And there's something beautiful about being able to tap into the aspects of, beyond the veil, the astral realm, and the sort of collective causal realms to see what's going on. But it's also like at a certain point, it starts to feel like you're really staring into this abyss. I think there's a really good Nietzsche quote out there about, don't stare into the abyss too long, otherwise you'll become it, basically. So I think it's important to tap into those things in waves and understand what's intended and prepare for it however we can, and also figure out where our own plug-in points are, and unplug as best we can, heal our own traumas and our own causal points, so that we can interface with what's unfolding in the world in a way that can benefit ourselves and our growth and our evolution, so that we can move towards that better world. And in a way that can benefit the collective. So I think within that, it's important to understand some of the deeper, darker agendas. And then at the same time, if you stare into it for too long, it will start to consume you. So, because it feeds off of our attention too. So it's almost like once you name it, you don't need to name it for a while. You can do your work. You can do your interpersonal work. You can do work with the collective. You can make your preparations, whether those are practical or energetic or emotional or whatever. But you don't need to keep naming it. If you keep staring at it. So, and part of this is that the whole idea of like villains and heroes, or villains and saviors, we have this sort of complex going on in our culture right now where people are so hyper tuned to everything that's going on that they let their attention get sucked into that place. And like I said, we have to see this stuff and name it. That's important for a lot of us. That's important to see it, name it, stand up to it, speak out about it maybe. But at that point, then it's like, go back to doing your inner work, and also go back to envisioning what a world looks like that overcomes those challenges. What does that world look like, and how do we overcome it? Right. And so back to the heroes and saviors thing, like nobody's coming to save us, and the longer you stare at that villain and you point at that villain and you call that villain out, the more attention you're giving it too. And I'm guilty of this too. It's like, there are so many like seeming villains around us right now. But I can tell you, one of the downloads I got recently is that most of those are just front men. So the people that you're seeing their face and they're playing the villain, like whether it's in the media or whatever, like they're not the real villain anyway. But the more we stare at them and even point at them, the more energy we give that. So there's a balance in there, because we can't just put our heads in the sand and be like, oh, I'm not going to give this any energy. I'm just going to completely ignore all the, negative manifestations. I'm not creating a false positivity culture here on my channel. We got to be real. We got to recognize the evil. We may need to stand up to it. Everybody has their own way of doing that. But we don't need to feed it too much, because it's vampiric. And I can follow current manifestations to their worst case scenario and get to that hell on earth scenario through technology that I've been writing about. But I can also see that it may not work. They've got all these things in place. They've got all these moving pieces sort of in place, but it has to all click together to really work. So I think it's just as important to hold the possibility for the new world and the overcoming of humanity. Humanity steps up to this challenge and overcomes. It's a churning point for the human spirit, right? And we can step up to that. So I think it's really important to hold that and hold that possibility, and not just stare at the full manifestation of the evil as if it's already just inevitable, right? Because that's why we create with our focus, our focal point. We create with our attention, especially if we're using an open window. So even though those are real, those intentions they have are real, those endpoints are real, those worst case scenarios are real, they're already sprouting now. It's like, I often have this like, oh, I got to warn people. Don't go this way, like go this way, even though we can see that, if we put all our focused energy, our I am focus into that too much, we're actually helping create it. So we got to find that balance. And this isn't even what I was going to talk about in this video today, but here it is. I'm going to turn this off and make the video I really intended to make, which is about basically how to work with your plug-in points in your causal body, which is pertinent to the time we're in. But anyway, I just wanted to get that out there. It's been, like I said, I've been staring into that abyss. And it's heavy. It's really heavy. It's really heavy when you start to get to what the ones who are doing the black magic and the dark arts, what they want to create here. And of course, I've said before, it's an initiation, right? It's a churning point for the human spirit to rise up and prevail. So it's not like, it's okay, we can get through this. But yeah, it can be pretty heavy to hold when you really get a full clairvoyant kind of download. And you start looking into that darkness. Anyway, that was my little rant. That's not even what I meant to talk about, but I love you all. Let me know what you think, okay? Love you.